All right, we are live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So the crypto markets, have taken an absolute beating over the past several weeks in particular. Of course, things have looked pretty bad in crypto land for really most of this year. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how things actually could change for crypto in a way that a lot of people don't expect. Like, not very many people are talking about this. And I'm going to stress why it's so important that not many people are talking about this and what you need to understand. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you will learn how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then definitely head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. So last but not least, of course, we do these live streams Monday through Friday on this channel. Make sure you turn on notifications down in the YouTube settings below. That's going to let you get notified whenever we do these streams. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. You can also follow me on Twitter here. I usually post a link whenever we go live in the morning. So if you don't get that YouTube notification, you can get notification there on Twitter. All right, so let's jump into this. So, of course, crypto has taken an absolute beating over the past, pretty much all this year. But the past few weeks have looked pretty ugly. Bitcoin wicked down to about $17,500. ETH fell below. It fell below its prior cycle's all-time high. We talked about that yesterday in our live stream about how basically nobody was talking about that, and it happened, okay? Same thing with ETH falling below $1,000, triple digits, back down to about $800. People thought it couldn't happen. Guess what? It happened. So what I want to do in this video right now is talk about some things that crypto could do relatively soon in the grand scheme of things that a lot of people are not expecting, all right? And how this actually could have a silver lining behind it, all right? So the first thing about is looking at past events and setting the stage for what I'm about to tell you, which is crypto's been defying everyone's expectations lately. All right, you break that down. I mean, we just broke below our prior cycle's all-time high for Bitcoin. Something people said, hey, it's never going to happen. I mean, one of the biggest investment theses for crypto is like, well, no matter what price I buy Bitcoin at, in 5 years or 4 years or whatever it is, like, it's always going to be in profit. Well, people who just bought, at the end of 2017 at the very cycle all-time high and then came back in 2022 to check their portfolios for at least one day, they were, underwater. So that kind of throws that out the door. I mean, how many people have you ever heard be like, hey, I'm getting my buddy into crypto, and they're like, what should you buy? And the bull market's already like raging, and they're like, this is kind of awkward, but just buy some stuff, come back in 5 years, just don't look at it, forget about it, you're going to make money. Well, you can't always say that type of thing anymore, based on the recent data. So, it defied expectations. And so, the other thing to think about is crypto is doing, basically whatever, all the rules are out the window. All right, all the rules that everybody have been playing by are out the window. We talked yesterday in our live stream about how a lot of that has to do with what's going on in the broader economy, okay? You can look at price charts all day long. You can try to look at, formulas to try to forecast where, models and formulas to try to forecast where crypto is going to go. You can try to use technical analysis. You can try to do all this stuff, right? But all of it fails to account for the outside reality that's actually having a massive impact on the actual price of the assets themselves. Namely, right now, the broader economy is having the biggest effect on crypto stocks and everything. And I don't pretend to be a macroeconomics expert by any stretch of the imagination, but like I keep saying, it doesn't take a genius to see that inflation's a problem, that the Fed's change in monetary policy is destroying all risk assets, and crypto is no exception. So, all of the basically that where I'm going with this is basically crypto is quite possibly going to do something that I think nobody expects. I say quite possibly, stress an asterisk, because I don't make these videos as somebody who pretends to know what the exact future is going to be. I've never tried to be that person, but I always try to think about things in probabilities. All right, what's the most likely thing to happen based off of what we know is probably going to, based on the future factors that we can perceive in front of us. All right, what events are probably going to take in the future, because nobody knows. Nobody really knows if they're even going to wake up tomorrow. Nobody even knows if the sun's going to come up tomorrow. It probably is going to, right? Most likely. So you can't really forecast anything with 100% certainty. But when you look at, what could happen, you have to always think about things in probability. So the reason I say that is because, we're starting to see some of the past models that people have long put way too much hope in, way too much stock in, get absolutely decimated, right? I mean, how many people were flashing this type of chart around in 2020 as some serious hopium to try to say, well, look, we exactly know where the Bitcoin price is going to be at the end of 2021, right? So we've seen a lot of models get absolutely wrecked. We've seen a lot of people's hopes and dreams get absolutely wrecked because they put too much faith in this, all right? And so if you've been here through 2021, and, been through that bull cycle, you know that putting too much hope in something that tries to guarantee results with a certain degree of accuracy, with a certain degree of time frame, can just lead you up for absolute disappointment and failure and crushed hopes and dreams. Now, I try to be very clear on my channel, like, I do think that Bitcoin can get to $100,000. I do think that, Ether can get to $10,000. I've never tried to put time frames on when I think that's going to happen. I just think that those things are going to happen in the future. You could say 100 million reasons why you think that's going to happen, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to a bet. Like, just based on all this stuff, like, I bet this is going to happen, and I bet it's going to happen in a much shorter time frame than something else that I could put my money into that's going to deliver that type of ROI. All right. So that's what I will be very clear. That's what I've always tried to stress on my channel. Never try to say, hey, this is going to happen by this date. It's going to happen by the end of 2021. It's going to happen here. And never try to do that. Okay. And some people say, hey, that's useless. Like, price predictions are useless unless they have a time frame. It's like, okay, but if you try to set those things, you're setting yourself up for expectations that could cause you to ultimately shake out of your positions. Okay, when bad stuff like this happens, and then you don't actually ride out to the finish line, because most people in crypto, their worst enemies are themselves, right? It sounds easy to buy low and sell high, but the reason most people buy high and sell low is because they panic sell, okay? So let's talk about, what crypto could do that defies a lot of people's expectations. So I want to come back to expectations here. So crypto ends up typically doing what a lot of people don't expect. So you have to break crypto up into really like two things that are largely connected to one another, okay, that influence the behavior of the markets. Now, numbers go up and down for a bazillion reasons, but typically crypto ends up not doing what two specific participants in crypto do. Number one, the herd, okay, the herd, and number two are the false prophets, okay? So we've seen a number of false prophecies in crypto. And so what I mean by that is basically like a certain prediction that has a verifiable date applied to it with a verifiable outcome. And then we reach that verifiable date and outcome, and those predictions did not come true. That's a false prophecy, okay? So whenever we get to those things, that causes a lot of people to lose hope and shake out. And surprise, surprise, false prophets are rarely right because nobody knows the future with any degree of accuracy. Like, nobody is clairvoyant. Nobody actually knows what the future is going to hold. The world is a chaotic place with so many different factors that it's impossible to know with any degree of accuracy what's going to happen with 100% certainty in the future. Cryptocurrency prices are no exception. Okay, so false prophecies tend to not come true. The other thing is the herd just tends to not get it right? Retail investors are typically the least successful participants in the crypto markets. Now, I'm not saying all retail investors, right? That's because most people watching this video, myself included, are technically a retail investor, right? They're probably a lot smarter than the casual person who never really gets into crypto, right? But still, like, as a category, like, we are retail investors. We don't play with institutional money. Like, maybe there's some institutional people watching this video, but most people, right? So I'm not saying institutions are any better, but basically the herd and the false prophets, like, whatever they're doing and saying is typically not what's going to happen. So let's talk about what is going on right now. What does the herd think? What do the false prophets say right now? Well, you have to go back to that quote, which is when you find yourself on the side of the consensus, or the majority view, it's time to stop and reflect. I think it was a Winston Churchill quote. I can't remember. Or let's just see here. I'm going to look it up. Let's see. It is Mark Twain. Sorry. So whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. All right. So we'll talk about what does the majority think is going to happen in crypto right now. Well, the majority thinks that crypto is just going to go lower. majority thinks that, hey, it's just going to go lower from here, man. Like, bottom's not in, no way. Like, we're just going to drag down. Like, ETH's going to $200 and Bitcoin's going to $5, or whatever, right? Like, there's the absolute overwhelming bearish sentiment, and there's the absolute overwhelming bearish sentiment that, you know, the United States and the whole world's going into a multi-year recession. You know what I mean? And that's just going to drag everything down. That this thing is going to be a nasty, ugly, like, crypto winter, worse than what we saw in 2018, 2019. Like, that's what the majority thinks right now. So the majority last year thought that Bitcoin was going to crush through $100,000, that Ether was going to crush through $10,000. Everybody thinks that all this stuff. All right, so when you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to stop and reflect. So what is an alternative to that nobody's talking about that could happen based on external factors that are currently influencing the current situation that could cause the situation to completely change? Well, let's look at what some of those factors are. So the biggest thing affecting crypto right now is the broader economy, and specifically the actions by the central bank, specifically the United States, that are impacting monetary policy to try to tame what's happening in the broader economy. So again, I don't claim to be a macroeconomic expert, but basically inflation is a problem. Part of the reason inflation is a problem is because of supply chain issues. Part of it's because of energy, okay? Commodity prices, specifically oil, gas prices gone up like crazy. That has an effect on everything. If you go to a grocery store and buy, produce that's not grown right down the street from you, it had to get on a truck or airplane or something and come from many, many miles away, and that cost is getting passed on to the consumer to buy that produce, right? Like, fuel prices affect everything. So if any of these and then basically that's some of the reasons that inflation is a problem, also because of fiscal stimulus, loose monetary policy, and all that's changed and tightened, and interest rates have gone up like crazy. So and most people just are now expecting that inflation is just here to stay, that it's not going to peak, and that, we're just going to enter this crazy, crazy, crazy long situation. So I think what most people are not expecting right now is that it's not quite as bad as everybody thinks, okay? And that because it's not quite as bad as everybody thinks, that the actions that have already been taken by the Federal Reserve have largely has largely put a dent in what they tried to accomplish, and that we could see some type of change of course and change of tone soon. All right, relatively soon in the grand scheme of things. All right, now I'm very clear about what I'm saying here is that this is a possibility. I've been saying this entire video, that anybody who tells you that they know exactly what's going to happen in the future should be viewed with skepticism, okay? Now, I'm not telling you I know exactly what's going to happen. What I'm saying is, go back to the idea of, the majority. When you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Well, it's time to pause and reflect and think about what could happen that's going to run counter to what everyone is expecting. So we're already starting to see little hints, okay, of the Fed changing tone and how they talk about their path moving forward, okay? One of the things that's definitely caused, the panic in the crypto markets and the drop in price has been basically the rise in interest rates and then quantitative tightening, which is basically reducing the money supply and then increasing the federal funds rate, which changes the interest rate that people pay, that the banks to lend money to one another, which influences other rates. It influences things like mortgage rates. Of course, mortgage rates do not follow the federal funds rate. It follows 10-year treasury, okay? And so basically, those things are influenced by the federal funds rate, but not directly affected. At least that's my understanding. I'm not trying to be a macro expert, but that is my understanding of the situation. So what do people not expect? Well, people do not expect the Fed to pivot, okay? For the Fed to basically be on this hawkish trajectory that they've been on really since the beginning of the year, which has gotten increasingly more aggressive and hawkish, where we started to go saying, hey, we're going to have a 25 basis point rate hike. So now it's 50 basis point, now it's 75 basis point, which basically coincide with the last major dump that we just saw across crypto and other risk assets. Nobody expects the Fed to pivot like relatively soon, like this summer. Okay, everybody's like, everybody's, super bearish now, that this is going to be drawn out for multiple years. But the truth is, if we saw a Fed pivot relatively soon in the grand scheme of things, that could mark a generational bottom for crypto. And that could be here like sooner than we expect. And the other truth is that the bottom for crypto could actually, it could come before then. Okay. So, crypto could form a bottom on its own to where, it starts to have some sort of a relief rally. I actually was saying this back early in the summer, but it was the beginning of maybe like June, or maybe like middle of May. But it was before the last dump that we saw. I said that one thing that nobody expected in crypto was basically while crypto's in some sort of relief rally, that the Fed pivots and that causes like a bunch of people who are sitting on the sidelines to miss the boat and to FOMO in. So think about this. Bitcoin and crypto have been in a basically, Bitcoin, Ether, all this other stuff, let's see here, have been pretty much straight down. Like it's been kind of crazy how straight down Bitcoin has been, really since about March. So like if we look here, like here's the peak, here's March. That's like basically straight down with no relief. Okay. Now most bear markets in the past have had some sort of relief rallies where you see the price going down and then, you get some sort of relief. Now that's basically what we got here. But we haven't had any relief rallies since basically March. Okay. So what a lot of people don't expect is for us to have a relief rally. And then basically we do see some sort of pivot by the Fed. And then whenever we're in the middle of that relief rally, that causes people to start FOMOing in. Because I guarantee you, if the Fed pivot happens and it's very clear and it's announced to where it just like echoes throughout the entire financial space, that things are going to rip, absolutely rip. Okay, that's basically what happened when the Fed made a major announcement in March, marked the COVID bottom, and it was like boom. So if we pump and the announcement happens, there's going to be a lot of people who are sidelined who are not in the markets, who've been waiting for the perfect entry, waiting for the bottom. Everybody said, oh, we're going to be here for years and years and years. It's going to go lower. It's going to go lower. That's what the herd thinks. And so inevitably, whenever things change course, there's going to be people in the herd who are just not with it and are going to miss the boat. And they're going to expect the Fed pivot to be at the bottom. What the bottom already happens before we get there. So that is what most people are not telling you right now. I don't hear anybody saying this out there. I don't think anybody expects a Fed pivot to be soon. I see a few people talk about that, but nobody talks about the scenario where basically it happens in the middle of some sort of rally, and there's a lot of people who are sidelined who have to chase back in, and that the market can basically recover and have fuel fired to it a lot faster than people are thinking, and that we don't have this insane crypto winter that everybody's just like nuclear winter that everybody's so deterministic about right now. So again, I want to add some major caveats to this. I'm not claiming that I'm saying this is going to happen or that it's going to happen with, a certain verifiable date. But it goes back to what I was saying before. When you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to stop and reflect. And that's one of the things I like to help you do in this channel is not just feed you the same, crap that everybody else is saying that ends up getting people wrecked and their hopes and dreams dashed, but some realistic possibilities. Because again, hey, I'm a huge believer, in crypto for the long term. I'm still holding strong on my positions by watching some of this stuff go down. I mean, ETH's down was like 75% from the all-time high. Still long-term conviction, but especially, everybody else is going to tell you the only way to really make it in life is to, ride crypto to the moon, and that's the best way to make, life-changing gains with crypto. I will say that's not true. The best way to do that is to double down on your technical skills and break into the industry, because most people hate their job and they don't like what they do, and they don't feel like they're paid enough for what they do to meet their financial goals in life, provide for their family, provide for themselves, whatever the situation is. And I've always said that working in the blockchain industry is one of the best opportunities for people to get that life-changing result in crypto, because you get to work on something that's exciting and interesting. Like if you're already interested in crypto, like the technology is super interesting, And it's one of the highest paying fields in tech. It's one of the fastest ways to change your careers and make, a good income. And you get to work from home, all that type of stuff. And so that's, at the end of the day, what I help you do on this channel. And that's why I'm so big on, blockchain development for sure. So, I mean, most people, like, just think about it. If you were here through 2021 and listened to a lot of people got wrecked by listening to the wrong people. When you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to stop and reflect. That's what nobody's talking about right now. Again, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I spent this entire video saying that, anybody who tells you exactly what's going to happen with utmost certainty in the future is either just completely delusional or they're not telling the truth and they know it. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Does any of this sound plausible to you? Am I dead wrong? Here's the thing. I welcome, feedback, conversation, criticism. If you think I'm just off my rocker, I want to know why. Somebody says, does market condition will affect blockchain jobs for Web 3.0? Like less opportunity, more supplies? It's a good question. So I'm going to tell you this from lots of angles. So I was here during 2018, 2019 bear market. And basically, like, there was still a ton of opportunity for blockchain developers despite, companies going under, besides being in like a crypto winter. Okay. Now, were there some layoffs from like poorly funded companies that mismanaged money? Yeah, definitely. But if you were a part of one of those companies, you probably saw that before it was coming. But you would have likely been able to get a different crypto job. Okay. There's still a ton of blockchain development work back then. Okay. So even more now. And people have seen like the layoffs happen from major companies like Coinbase. Okay. Coinbase overhired at the end of 2021. And for every example of a company that you can see that's got layoffs, there's at least one company of the same size hiring more people than were laid off from the previous company. We saw that with Binance. Okay, that's not an exact statistic, but that's just like kind of the thing. There's probably more companies, honestly, than like basically more companies that would hire at the same level than are laying off. Okay. Because in the day, like that's in the incentives of the competitor companies. Like they want to be strong when their competitors are weak, so they want to scoop up the talent whenever that happens. Because they're well funded. They're selling treasure troves, massive work chests of capital, and want to multiply that capital. And labor their labor is their best way to do that, and so they want to hire. So long story short is it going to have some effect on the opportunity? It will have some effect on it'll have some effect on individual companies. In aggregate, could it have some small effect? It could have some small effect, but it's not going to like noticeably affect the opportunity for individuals. Like if you're open to switching companies, if you're open to that type of stuff, like the opportunity is not going to go away. Still very, very strong. How do I think Web 5? I didn't say anything about Web 5. What do I think about Web 5? So I'm going to talk about Web 5. I'm actually going to do a video on it. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. I'm going to do a video about Web 5. So I'm not super researched up on Web 5 just yet. So I want to take the time to read about it. And that's when I make the video. And we can talk about it in the live streams when I do. The road to Rome was not built in one day. That's right. Is it good to first learn Python then start learning blockchain language? I would start with blockchain. I know a lot of people tell you the exact opposite. I used to think this way, but I changed my mind because I've helped so many other people start with blockchain. Now, really what you want to do is learn your, because here's the thing. So my view is basically that, if you're going to learn blockchain, the best thing to do is to learn smart contract development, because you're going to learn how blockchain works. You're going to learn, how to create smart contracts. You're going to learn how to, probably create user interfaces or scripts that interact with smart contracts. And so the core skill there is learning the smart contract development language. Now, you should definitely pick Solidity, unless you have a really, really, really good reason to pick something else. If you don't know, the answer is Solidity. And then you want to pick a secondary programming language. If you don't know the answer is JavaScript. Now, this person said Python. That's okay. But for most people starting out, they just want to be told what to do. You're going to get a lot of mileage out of JavaScript. Be able to create user interfaces, scripts, all that type of stuff. Okay, so the reason I say that is because you're going to need to do other stuff like write test scripts, probably a user interface for your smart contract, especially if you're just learning. And JavaScript can give you the most versatility. Now, this person is basically asking me the same question that almost everybody asks me, which is, should I learn blockchain first, some other programming language? Really, the thing about it is, you don't want to go learn a bunch of other programming languages in isolation and then go learn blockchain. It's the opposite of what most people are going to tell you. But again, I changed my view on this over time by helping other people with the exact method I'm about to describe. Really, what you want to do is you want to have a purpose-driven learning, which is I am learning for the reason of becoming a blockchain developer. So basically that means you don't want to learn JavaScript to say it's going to help me become a blockchain developer at some point, because when you're learning blockchain development, you have no idea when you're learning JavaScript, you have no idea how it applies to blockchain development. If you're just like doing it in abstract, like, doing like Code Academy tutorials or something like that, or just a JavaScript course, you don't really see how it does anything with blockchain. So the most efficient way to learn is through immersion and to work with the exact thing that you are trying to apply it to. Because when you see something's purpose, when you see its function, that's what helps you retain the information. Because if you learn the programming language as an abstract, you have no idea why you're doing it. How many times have you been in a classroom when you're growing up in school and a student says, when am I ever going to use this? It's because they have no idea why. So the last thing you want to do is learn a bunch of programming languages that you have no idea why you're learning it, because you're going to forget it. So the fastest way is to do it in the context of actually building blockchain-based applications. That's why you learn by doing. And so when you're building smart contracts, you want to focus on the smart contract development language, but you want to have a secondary language, and you want to be really learning that language, honestly, like while you're developing smart contracts, because you're going to see why you need it, and you're going to make the syntax and all that stuff stick way more, okay? If you go learn it in abstract, you're not going to see why it's important. But if you learn it while you're doing tasks that you're supposed to be doing, like when you're actually doing that skill, it's going to make a lot more sense. Now, you should really honestly be learning both at the same time. A lot of people think that's crazy because you can't learn two things at once. That's absolutely not true. You want to be learning the programming language and then, doing it while you're doing it. Somebody says stick with one at a time before you know all over the place and get easily lost. So it is great. Yeah, totally. Because here's the other thing. I think a lot of people have misconception about, what it takes to get hired as a blockchain developer. So I might come back to that, but somebody says front-end engineer to blockchain. Yeah, you can definitely do that. If you're a front-end engineer, you could even be a front-end engineer working with a blockchain company. Basically, if you already have the front-end skills, you just need to learn how to interact with blockchains and build blockchain-based applications. So doing a full-stack smart contract development tutorial and course or program will help you do that. And so really what you want to do is learn about smart contracts so that you can write websites with them. And you're going to learn way more about them by building them yourself. You don't have to be a Solidity expert, but if you learn Solidity enough to create the smart contracts and then put them on the blockchain and interact with them and then build your apps that talk to them, even if you just get good enough to understand that, it's going to really enhance and deepen your knowledge. And then you can stick to your specialty, which is front-end development, and then be really good at that. So a lot of people have misconceptions about, what it takes to get hired. Because at the end of the day, like the goal, if you're trying to get your foot in the door, somebody says Etherscan down. I don't see Etherscan down. So why is Bitcoin falling? Bitcoin's falling because I just made a video, which is the video I'm talking about right now, which had hopeful sentiment that things could improve in a way that nobody expects. So basically it just does the opposite of what I say. Just kidding. So anyways, most people have a misconception about, what it takes to get hired. At the end of the day, like there's really two strategies. You can go become a blockchain expert on your own, which you can definitely do that. It's going to be hard. Or you can just get good enough to get your foot in the door somewhere. And that's the path that probably most people are better suited for, which is get good enough to get your foot in the door somewhere. If you're a great programmer and you want to go become a blockchain master by yourself and then go try to get a top tier job, you can do that. It's hard work. But for most people, you really just want to get good enough to get your foot in the door somewhere. When can you do that? Well, whenever you've gone through the process of creating a professional level application, and then can go through unguided development to where you can create that type of application on your own, and then put it into a portfolio and start applying. So here's the thing. You have to understand, like, you don't have to be an expert. Like, you just have to get good enough and then be teachable and be ready to learn. Because at the end of the day, everybody ends up on the same path in their professional career, which is the path of self-learning. And if you get to that spot and you just stay there and you just keep learning, like, you can get paid to learn on the job. People who aren't developers already mostly are not in touch with this reality, but that is the reality of software development. How to learn concepts in Web3 instead of a special language like Solidity. Best way to learn the concepts is by writing the code, because you have to understand, like in order to make the code work, you have to understand why it works, and that's going to force you to learn the concepts. That's the absolute best way to learn the concepts. Because I've helped people, go through the blockchain bootcamp who did not end up, becoming professional developers, but they became business development people. But I've got emails from people, I've even read them on the live stream before, who've been like, hey, I got this business development job, and the one reason I did is because I knew how to code smart contracts and I could talk to engineers. Yeah, so I'm telling you is learning the technology from the inside out by writing code forces you to learn the concepts, and you're going to have a way higher understanding of actual blockchain technology that's going to give you a leg up no matter what you decide to do. I've helped people do this exact same approach who became project managers or product managers, business development people, people who were, lots of different roles who were not just straight up programmers, acquired a standout skill set that helped differentiate them from their peers and add a special level of value that made them basically irreplaceable at their jobs. All right, everybody. So, that's an overview of what could happen in the crypto space that nobody's really expecting. So again, I don't pretend to know what's going to happen in the future. I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked a lot about in this video about people, be very wary of people who have tried to tell you if they know exactly what's going to happen in the future with any degree of accuracy, because those people are either delusional or they're just not telling you the truth. So, but if we can try to forecast the future with whatever, things that we're pretty confident about, and that we can say that, well, crypto tends to do things that the majority does not expect, and that is one possible outcome that's at least worth considering. Worth considering, okay? Don't take it to the bank. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's definitely something I'm watching out for. So, hope you like this video. As always, smash the like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps the videos out so the more people learn about blockchain. And if you're as fast with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can get my YouTube homepage. You can find those free courses there, like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those, you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe take a master shortcut entirely, actually become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. We do have the special bootcamp version 2 launch coming out really soon. Definitely go check that out if you haven't already. I'll make another video about that tomorrow if you caught the video yesterday. That's all I've got. Next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.